Welcome to my build of this 60-inch wingspan Avanti Pattern Plane, and it's really exciting now because everything's nicely finished off, smoothed off, and I'm going to start the covering today. I'm going to do the fuselage first and then I'll do the wings. I'm going to be using two different colours. I've got this lovely Corsair blue, which I really like, and I've got a cream. It's going to be a fairly conservative colour scheme, and I was going to use white originally, but white is just so stark I thought it would be much better to use something just a little bit darker and a little bit more toned down in a way, I guess. So I'm going to be using these two colours. It's both Lightex from the World Models. If you look in the description below the video, then there will be a review to the product and also a link to the review and a link to the data sheets for the material. But suffice to say, I've used it a few times and I actually love it. I think it's a great material to work with. They do a Teflon, which is quite thick and quite tough, and isn't as easy, but it is really tough. So, the colour scheme, it's going to be fairly conservative, as I said. The tail underneath here is going to be dark blue, and the side is going to be dark blue, coming up to a bit of a stripe here. The underside of the front is going to be the cream, and then cream on top with maybe a little bit of blue. I need to think about this. So it's going to be dark blue along the sides. The top, the turtle deck, is going to be cream. The fin, sorry, is going to be cream, and the top. But the underside of the tailplane is going to be the Corsair blue. So blue underside, cream underside. The wings themselves will be cream on top, blue underneath, but then the front will have a sweeping blue band that comes from the root of the root, trailing edge, will sweep up and along the wings leading edge. So that's just the idea. It may change as we go, these things often do. I'm going to be using my Prolux digital iron, which again, I really love the control on this. It's a really nice bit of kit. Again, if you look in the description below, I've done a review of this and there'll be a link to that. My Swan Morton scalpel blades, scalpel handles, a number 4 and a number 3, and I will be essentially using a number 11 blade in the 3 handle and a number 26 blade in the 4 handle. I find these Swan Morton's scalpels and blades excellent, and they're sharper than any other scalpel blade I've used, and I've used a few different makes. One thing I'm doing differently this time, which has actually driven me a little bit nuts in the past when I've been covering, is I've always had my iron plugged in over here, and I'm always fighting with the cable and it drives me bonkers. So this time I'm actually going to plug it in the front there, in a socket, and just push that under the table, and the lead won't be dragging over. Yes, it's not rocket science, I should have thought of it before. So anyway, that I'm hoping will make life a lot easier. I'm not going to be filming this as I go. I've done lots of videos, or a few videos recently, where I'm showing the whole covering process and my thoughts as I go. But with this one, I just want to get on and do it, and I'll stop and show you how it's going on the way. So let's get on. I think I'm going to be doing the fin first and the tail plane, and then we'll start on the fuselage sides and underneath. So I'm going to be working my way up. So the idea is you do the underside first, and then the bit on the side will overlap, and all your joints are essentially pointing down, and any fuel oil that comes, castor oil or whatever, comes will run off and not seep into the seam. That's the thinking behind it, and that's what we're sticking with. So we'll get on and do that now. Well, I've now been working on this on and off for the last 3 days, and I'm almost there, and I've just got a little bit to do on the nose. I started off with the tailplane and the fin, and started off on the underside. Just move this into shot a little bit better, and got this this lovely Corsair blue on. I love working in this Lightex. It's really nice. So I did the underside and then the top. The Lightex is great for pulling around these corners. It's nice and thin, and you get a really good finish. You can just pull it round, and with the iron, just stick that on. It's great. And the same on the top of the fin here. The bit I really struggled with is this inside edge here. It just didn't go on very nice, and there's a few wrinkles. If anyone's got any suggestions for inside edges like this, then please leave me a comment. I'll be grateful for any advice. So this front section comes to here. I then did the nose in two sections, this nose section here coming right down to the trailing edge of the wing, and there's a central seam down the middle here just to help around these curves. So once I've done that, put on the blue stripe, again two sides and a central seam down the middle. Cut this to size first. I've got a 5mm overlap with the blue overlapping onto the cream, which is ideal because the blue's darker and the cream won't show through. You can see the blue showing through a little bit on the cream here, but I wanted to have the seam coming down, and I'm going to be putting on a pinstripe all the way down here and here somewhere, so that will kind of break that up, and I don't think it will be that obvious. The turtle deck was quite nice and exciting to get done. That's gone on quite nicely. It could do with tightening a little bit here, but because it's gone on so nicely everywhere else, I'm a little bit reluctant to work on that with a heat gun in case I overdo it, so I'm probably going to leave that. So the way I did the turtle deck is I cut a wedge-shaped piece of film, which was just slightly oversized for what I needed, and when I pulled off the backing paper, I left about an inch of the backing paper onto on the film. So I had the film, lined it up with this edge here, pulled it over, and tacked all this nicely with the iron, with the 5mm overlap that I need, making sure I got a nice line up here. I then pulled the film over. Don't forget, we've still got the backing paper on, and once it was on this side, let's see if I can just turn this over. Once it was on this side, so the film was on there like that, I could line up to see where it needed cutting. I put on my meter rule, and I got my wife to hold it while I just ran down with a scalpel, so I got that exactly right. I just needed to take off a small amount. In fact, here is the small amount that I cut off to get that to exactly the right size. So it's just with the backing paper on, I could run down with a really sharp scalpel, nice and lightly, and I didn't need to worry that I would cut through. If I'd taken the paper off, I'd probably cut through into the film I'd already put on. So that was quite nice. I then, with both sides tacked, and this pulled pretty tight all the way down, with this being nice and straight, it kind of pulled round quite nicely. That's the advantage of having a turtle deck that's nice and straight, not like on the J3 where it kind of dips in. But once I'd got that on, I took the heat gun and just shrunk it and pulled it all down tight, and that's the finish that we've got from the heat gun. So I'm pleased with that. The next bit I've got to do, which I'll probably leave now until tomorrow, is just to finish off this nose section, where I just need to carry on the cream along here right down to the engine bay, and that will overlap this way, which is good, so if any oil or fuel is coming back from the engine, and the same on that side, and then I'm going to have a blue central section. So hopefully these should go on quite nicely, being in three pieces, not trying to do it all in one. So we'll come back and have a quick look at that once we're finished, but that's kind of where we're at the moment. Right, well the fuselage is now finished and overall I'm really pleased with it. It's gone on quite nice and I quite like these pinstripes. So just zoom in a little bit with that. You can see I've done just a very fine pinstripe, and where you could see the blue through the cream, that pinstripe just kind of takes that away really. So, and I've got the bit on the top. Funnily enough, this bit on the top was almost the hardest bit out of the whole lot. But anyway, that's finished now and I'm ready to start doing the wings. You can see I've started to do the interior, painted this black. I'm going to paint this probably white, this deck here, and I've just put in a little bit of a seat. I need to get a pilot perhaps to stick in there as well, but I'm in no rush to do that. I might see if it flies first. I've got the finished canopy and that's nice and clear, nice material, and that's just going to sit on there nicely. And I think the way I'm going to attach the canopy is I will probably put a single screw here and here, same on the other side, and I will probably use these servo screws with an integral washer. I've got some really quite nice small crosshead ones that will look quite nice there. And around the front here I'm just going to put a line of thin clear tape and possibly along the sides. If it was an electric model I might not bother, but as it's going to be a glow engine, the exhaust on this side, well, it doesn't matter which side. Fuel oil is going to come here, so I'm going to try and seal that with some tape, but we'll see how that goes. So all that's left now is to get on and cover the wings, and then I can start fitting this out. To be honest, I might start fitting this out a little bit before I do the wings. Right, well I've started covering the wings, and you can see I've done the complete underside here, and that's gone on really nicely. I'm quite pleased with that. I do love this really rich Corsair blue. There's a couple of wrinkles in the end which I do struggle with these ends, but generally it's gone on quite nice and I'm quite pleased with that. And I've lapped that down into the aileron bay here, and the cream that's going to be on the top side will lap it onto that, and the actual aileron bay will be cream. You're going to view it from the top because this is the underside, and so it will look better if that's cream, I think. And in preparation for that I put in some corner pieces just to, so that, because I'll need to do corner pieces when I lap the cream down to cover the blue, so I might as well do them first. It'll just be a little bit more secure. And I've also done the cream here on the front, because this is more or less an extension of the fuselage once this plugs into the fuselage, and the front of the fuselage here is cream. So I've got the Corsair blue on the underside, and now I'm going to start to do the front, and I'll just show you how that's going to be. I've cut some templates for what I'm going to do, or actually cut the material for what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start by putting on cream, and I'm going to have a straight edge here of the cream, which is going to be parallel to this line here, the back of the sheeting here. And I think I'm an inch, yeah, I'm going to be an inch off that. So that's going to come along roughly like that, which will give me a little bit of a taper here on the wing. So that will be the first thing to go on. And then I've got the blue, which I've cut, and I'm going to have a 1/4 of an inch overlap on the whole lot like that. And that is the plan, and again that will wrap underneath like that. And there'll probably be a pinstripe, but we'll see how we get on with that. What I did is I cut both of these. So I cut that one first, put it on there, decided what shape I wanted. I then used that as a profile to cut this. So I just cut around it on some blue, and then I turn them both upside down and use them as a pattern for the other wing. So it should all be symmetrical and look the same, hopefully. So I'm going to get on and do that now, and then we'll see how it goes, and we'll come back and have a look at that when it's done. Well, I've now finished covering the wing, and it's gone really well. I'm really pleased with it. Yeah, there's always bits that you could do better. One thing I didn't realise is how difficult curved pinstripes would be, and I had to actually cut the pinstripe curved. I couldn't bend it around there, which was a bit disappointing because I then had to cut it freehand. But that's okay. You know, from a distance. So no, I'm pleased with it, and I've done the ailerons. I've got the hinges CA'd in, and I just need to locate the slots and then CA these on. So ailerons blue underneath and cream on top to match the wing. So the one thing that I've done this time, which I've never done before, is I haven't used the sock, and I found it so much more responsive, if you like, or at least so much more positive. That's the word I'm looking for. So much more positive that when you're heating the film, a sock kind of provides a little bit of insulation, and it doesn't feel as good. I've always used the sock before, but I don't think I will ever use one again after that experience. And having the lead coming around the front, as obvious as it is, made a huge difference in just not fighting with the lead all the time. So I'm going to get this together now, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it looks finished, and do some taxiing and get it into the air.